Okay, to start with, here's the picture that I'm working from. And this is a scene with some big billowing clouds going on, but also some blue sky too. So we are going to visualize this picture in black and white, because if we visualize it in black and white, you can kind of get over the color element and look at it in terms of where are the darkest areas, where are the midtones, where are the highlights. So this is one thing that's really key as an artist, is to be able to kind of look at things that are in color and kind of switch it in your mind to black and white. One thing you can also do is what that camera is doing right now. You can kind of blur your eyes out of focus. So you squint to do this so you can see the color relationships a little bit better. So if you're having trouble with the value, like seeing the value, squint. All right, so over here I'm starting on the pencil outline. And this is where that exercise that we did way back at the start of the year kind of comes into play, because I'm mainly just doing one long line or one continuous line when I'm drawing clouds. I do the same thing for trees too. And I'm just going to show you, typically when I'm doing a landscape and it's more of an organic landscape like what you see here, I won't use a pencil. I'll just go in with a paintbrush. So I'm kind of outlining this in paint just as I would like my own paintings, so you can kind of see it. And these are supposed to be kind of broken lines because you don't need a harsh outline. In fact, you want to avoid a harsh outline because you're going to be flattening your landscape, flattening your forms if you have a harsh dark outline. So we're going in here and we're going to be proceeding to the sky, which you have some experience with. The same is true of this sky as with those other skies you've done in the past. You're wanting to go with an ombre where it's darker at the top, and then you fade and transition it as it goes down. You kind of want to ignore the clouds. You want to not paint those clouds in, and instead just focus on the blue part of the sky at first. So I leave my clouds for the last, because I usually work from dark to light or from the sky to the middle ground to the foreground. So I'm just getting in a little bit of that land and blocking in some of the trees. And you'll notice like on the trees, I'm not just using one value. I have a couple of values. I have some muted colors there. I have some earth tones. So I'm going to begin with the darkest part of the clouds. So I'm looking at those clouds and kind of blurring my eyes when I do this. And I'm going to the darkest areas first. So these darker areas are kind of a color of gray, and maybe a little bit of violet or blue influence to them. So there are many ways you can make gray. I really suggest that you try making your own gray. The fastest way to make a gray is brown and ultra blue and white. But you can also make your own gray by taking the primary colors, yellow, red, and blue together. So I'm working from dark to light, and I'm working a little bit sloppy at first. That's why it's looking like a little bit hectic. That's okay. I'm going to be refining at another layer. So this is after I've worked it a little bit. So again, dark to light. What you want to do is you really want to curve your form, make it round. It's just like doing a ball, like the sphere, where you have it rounded and curved. Your form shadows on those clouds act the same way your form shadows would on a ball. They slowly turn, they slowly shift. Now, there are weird indentations that happen on clouds, and you just have to look for those changes. The one key thing about clouds is that they are soft-edged. You don't want to have too much hard edge going on there, so you need to soften the edge either by doing kind of a dry brush scumbling technique, where you're just taking a dry brush and doing a short stroke. What I don't want you guys to do is to just kind of dab at it. I want it to look fluffy, whipped up like frosting. And it takes quite a bit of work. And again, it's really important that you pay attention to color relationships, value relationships, and temperature relationships that go on within the clouds. So look really closely at your reference that can help you, and try modeling that, curving those marks around the form. And that's true of your brushwork. I do different brushwork for clouds than I would for sky. We talked about sky brushwork being either vertical strokes or kind of an X. But for clouds, I wrap it around the form. So I'll often do curvy brush strokes, but I'll also go kind of side to side horizontally. It depends on the direction of the cloud. Let the cloud kind of help to dictate the direction of your stroke. And just like with our other landscapes, you're going to be hitting this up with multiple layers. So this, what you see me end with today, really should have more than that. It needs to have more. I could refine it even more. But you do want to get this feeling of these forms floating. They should feel like they're floating. They shouldn't be too heavy. You really want to compare the shadow of the form to how the hue of the sky, like how the value relationship there, like is it lighter than the sky? Is it darker than the sky? Really important stuff for you to pay attention to. You can hold your picture right up against your painting to see like how am I doing on color matching? How am I doing on value? So you are going to be doing 2 of these, and I'd like you to pick 2 different ones. So they shouldn't be 2 that are very similar. That you shouldn't do 2 close-ups of clouds, or try doing some different coloration. So here is that technique of one long continuous line to do the clouds. It really helps me because I can keep my eye following along the edge of the cloud at the same time as my hands moving. That's with the outline I just skipped ahead. And remember, these don't have to be perfect. We're just trying to get the suggestion of them. And it can be really hard. This one that I'm starting right now, it's still not done, and it took like multiple coats. It's probably been like 2 hours that I put into that one little tiny painting. And that can happen. It's okay. What I'm looking for here is a try, and I'm looking for trying to get the right values. Remember, it's more important that you have the right value than the color be 100% accurate. It's more important that the value is accurate. Clouds are kind of funny shaped. So I'm looking at this in terms of negative space when I was filling this in. So I thought I'd jump ahead a little bit so you can see how I'm starting with the darker parts of the cloud first. And they're not just one color. It's about 3 or 4 colors or values that you see there. And they're all in that kind of purple-gray range. So if you have a sunset cloud picture, it's going to be a little bit more complex. It's not going to be just white, gray, blue, yellow. That's the other thing I don't know if I mentioned, but clouds are very rarely ever pure white. I always add a little bit of flavor to the white anyway. We've talked about that before, that I want to give it a hint of flavor. Maybe it's a little bit of that pale blue in there. Maybe it's a hint of yellow. Maybe it's a touch of pink to those clouds. But this is especially true if you're going to be doing a sunset, where the sunset is, or the sun is just descending. It's really going to illuminate those clouds and turn them a nice, beautiful, intense color there. So I will not use pure white on this one. There's just no point. So I want to really be considerate of volume, creating volume with these clouds. So it's going from dark to medium to light to lightest. It's going to go really light on areas that are sticking out, and it'll go slightly darker to a lot darker if it is kind of sinking in or turning away from the light. And a lot of these colors that I'm using right now are peachy colors or mutes. So I'm just going to skip ahead here a little bit. This is still not done. It needs more work. It needs more coats. But it's that technique of making it feel like it's sinking in places, bulging out at other places, and then kind of fuzzy edged also. It doesn't have to be 100% fuzzy edged, but you do want to have those blurred edges in places. And we are going to be putting at least 2 coats on these. I'm telling you, like on this one, I'm probably going to end up with like 5 or 6 coats of paint. So a coat of paint is just like a layer of paint. All right, so please make sure you do 2, and you're doing at least 2 coats on both.